You're still watching Nile TV International from Cairo. It's now 2:25 a.m. here in Cairo. Remember, we had advanced our watches for 60 minutes, summertime now in Cairo. Here is another special edition covering the fast-moving developments in the Middle East, especially the U.S.-Iran situation, the Cold War, maybe the Cold War, and the Lebanon-Israel situation, maybe the Cold Peace, and the Strait of Hormuz situation, the double blockade. With us now live over the phone is Dr. Paul Davis, and Dr. Davis is a professor at the Institute of World Politics. He's talking to us from Washington, D.C. Dr. Davis, good evening. Thank you for joining us. As always, a pleasure to have you with us on Nile TV.
Yes, good evening, and it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, very much. Now, Dr. Davis, I want to start with the U.S.-Iran situation. U.S. President Donald Trump most recently said there is no time frame for the war, no time frame for the extension of the ceasefire, but he has warned that if Iran doesn't come to the table and doesn't agree to a deal, then military operations will resume. The question here, sir, is when should we expect that to happen if Iran does not come back to the table? And, of course, Iran has put as a precondition the lifting of the blockade on its ports to return to the table.
Well, I'm not entirely sure if I can give you a date. We have heard some backroom talk that the extension is not going to last more than 5 days. So that may be end of this week, beginning of next week.
Right.
We're not entirely sure.
Yeah.
The reality is that Donald Trump is trying to give Iran an off-ramp, and he's hoping that they'll at least come to the table and begin to talk. They have refused to do that so far, and right now we're seeing inside of Iran what appears to be a split in the government between the civil government and the IRGC. So we're not entirely sure what's going on there.
Right.
It may be a matter of we might just sit back and watch them tear themselves apart. So
yes,
that's where we are right now.
Yeah. There was a lot of confusion. In fact, when the 3 to 5 day period for the extension of the ceasefire was mentioned before the U.S. president, he said no, there is no specific time frame. But really listening to him, I mean, everybody, is confused because, he says that there is no time frame. Americans have to get used to high gasoline prices for a while. I'm not under time pressure. I'm not afraid of the congressional election. From one side, he seems to be indicating that this could last for months, not just weeks. The stalemate, the Cold War, maybe, if we can say so. But on another side, repeating the threats and hearing the Israeli defense minister earlier today saying that Israel is waiting for the green lights, obviously the green light from Washington, to get Iran back to the Stone Age, the words of the Israeli defense minister, then we got the sense that this could be much nearer than many people think.
That is true. And again, when we hear from Israel, Israel is obviously much closer to the situation. Iran is absolutely an existential threat to Israel. So they want to complete whatever is going to be completed as soon as possible. And now they're also involved with Lebanon, and we just got an additional 3-week ceasefire there.
Correct.
And so we'll see what happens. But again, there's going to be somewhat of a disconnect between Israel and the United States. Again, the United States is willing to a point, ride it out and see what happens. Israel has, unfortunately, been on the receiving end of a lot of attacks, and they've been on the giving end of those as well. So they're a little bit more apt to want to conclude this quicker than the United States. Now, like I said, the United States may be, the strategy may be, let's sit back and see what's going on inside of Iran, because even if we wanted to talk, we're not entirely sure who to talk to.
Now, the issue about the unified ranks in Iran, I mean, the U.S. President hinted that there are cracks and differences and disputes within the regime, the hawks and the doves. He said that the Iranian Foreign Minister, Mr. Arakchi, is a very smart man, so seemingly, praising the doves. Maybe the Iranian president as well, a dove, but then you have the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, Ahmad Wahidi, and maybe other hawks there, but we don't know where Mr. Qalibov is classified. But the question here is, I mean, do you personally believe, Dr. Davis, that there is a crack within the Iranian regime, or do you think it's just a political or diplomatic ploy by the Iranians to stall for time?
Now, from what we've been able to see and ascertain from some of the stuff that's been going on and coming out of it, I don't really believe it's a ploy. I do believe that there is a split within the regime between, you can call them hawks and doves, but let's just say more moderate and less moderate factions. I mean, we saw this when the government said, yeah, we'll open up the Straits of Hormuz, and almost immediately thereafter the IRGC came out and publicly contradicted that. I mean, if it's an internal ploy, or I don't think there'd be that much public disagreement. And we're seeing some changes in the civilian side. The parliamentary speaker, I just read a report that he's been dismissed. We saw the problem with trying to appoint a new intelligence chief. In the past, this was simply done quickly. The Supreme Leader just appointed him. This time, the government appointed him, and the IRGC said no. So, no, there's definitely a rift there. How wide it is, how deep it is, that's the question.
And how long do you think Mr. Trump is ready to wait for that unified response?
Well, again, that's going to be a lot up to how Iran acts. I mean, if Iran sits back and more or less accepts that there's a type of a ceasefire on, I think he's willing to let it go. In his White House, in the Oval Office conference this morning, today, when he's talking to the press, he said Iran is hurting itself. They're cutting their own throats. They're stopping their own revenue from coming. The concern is going to be, and the pressure is going to come from neighboring countries, UAE, Saudi, Kuwait, Qatar. If Iran goes back to attacking them, they're going to pressure Trump to do something. So again, it still goes back to Iran.
They are not likely, Iran is not likely under any scenario to start attacking the Arab Gulf countries, but if they do get attacked, they will most probably reply, an eye for an eye, energy facility for energy facility. This is what has been declared, and they will most probably follow through.
And that is something that we can sit and wait and see. We're also seeing some reports today, not sure how confirmed they've been, but there have been some explosions in Tehran, that the air defense systems were activated, brought up to speed. What, if this is true, if this is something that they're just using as you said, a ploy, it could also be the IRGC basically attacking themselves in order to stop the ceasefire. They want to get back to some kind of an active situation.
Right.
So again, this is a dangerous time and a dangerous situation.
Very, very, Dr. Davis, indeed. Now, I have a question here. It is regarding, I asked a short while ago about the Iranian intention and whether they are playing games and whether this issue about unified ranks or a crack is a ploy. I want to ask also about the American intentions. Now, should we really believe that Mr. Trump wants a deal, really a fair deal for everybody, a win-win situation? I mean, if he wanted that, Dr. Davis, he would have reacted positively when Arakji announced the opening of the Strait of Hormuz during the ceasefire, so the 14-day ceasefire. But what happened was that the U.S. responded by enforcing a blockade on Iranian ports and on Hormuz itself, thus complicating the situation and giving the impression again that the U.S. wants 100% of what's out there, not 90, not 95, just like the U.S. President said. Mr. Trump wants Iran to capitulate. He wants Iran to, to raise the white flag, to totally surrender. He was surprised they didn't capitulate before the war. He was surprised through week 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's week 9. So he just wants to bring Iran, I'm not going to say back to the Stone Age, but bring them to the ground and make them totally surrender. And knowing the Iranian mentality and their history and their position, this is, almost impossible, and the surrender thing. So Mr. Trump must realize that. So actually what he's doing now is actually leading to a full-out confrontation. He wants it either, it's all or nothing. He doesn't want a fair deal. He just wants to get it all or risk losing image, losing status, losing military personnel. What do you think?
Well, again, there's one very big stumbling block between both the U.S. and Iran, and that is the uranium and the nuclear portfolio. That is where both sides are taking maximalist positions.
Right.
The United States says no uranium, no nukes. Iran is saying we have an absolute right to enrich uranium and have a nuclear program. So therein, we run into a problem. And there's also the problem, as you said, one of the problems is also somewhat of a cultural problem.
Yes.
Trump doesn't understand. Iran has been basically destroyed militarily.
Yes.
I mean, they have their fast boats in the straits, blah, blah, blah. They have no air force. They have no army. They have no capability of defending themselves. So logically, in Trump's mind, why aren't they giving in? On the other hand, he does the Trump thing and said, let's negotiate, let's talk.
Yeah.
On the Iran side, they're looking at, oh, he wants to talk, that means he lost. So we have that problem, that dichotomy, and we have to get through that.
Right, absolutely. And sometimes we ask ourselves, why didn't just Mr. Trump go out and say, I have won? And he said it more than once. We've already won. Yeah, we've already won. So, okay, you've won, leave. And, and let the Iranians also trick themselves or trick anyone and say they have won as well. Everybody, let everybody be happy. He said it more than once, this is going to end very soon. Everybody's going to be happy. But now, what we're listening to indicates that we're going into weeks and months, and nobody's going to be happy. Somebody's going to be very sad. Most likely the Iranians.
Yeah, well,
most likely.
And again, go back.
But not certainly. But not certainly. Yeah.
We go back to as long as there's a potential for Iran to possess a nuclear device, as long as they possess that highly enriched uranium, Trump's not going to give in. That is the bottom line right there.
Yeah.
If Iran is willing to say, all right, we'll give up this highly enriched uranium, and if we need uranium for energy purposes or medical research, we'll get it from someplace else.
Yeah.
They can do that. Why don't they do that? Why are they saying, well, we're not going to make a nuclear bomb, but we have uranium, 60% enriched uranium, which is near nuclear weapons grade.
Right.
So,
right. And the former Iranian foreign minister, Jawad Zarif, had, presented a solution that, similar to what you were saying. Yes, a few weeks back, and he was attacked at home. But he did present that. He's a former diplomat, a former negotiator, a leading, of course, politician in Iran, but a former one, not a current one. Yes, uranium. So the next question would be, why doesn't Iran just go back to Islamabad? And Pakistan is waiting, and Pakistan seems to be the most optimistic of all parties here. They've done a very good job, as most analysts have indicated, and all parties have indeed thanked Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and all the mediators. But the Iranians say we're not going to go to Islamabad unless the blockade on Hormuz is lifted. So the question here is, are the Iranians also choosing the difficult path, and are they daring Mr. Trump to go and get the uranium himself? Because I mean, if Mr. Trump continues to target any facilities, bridges, you name it, infrastructure in Iran, but he doesn't get the uranium, there's still something missing. Something very big will be missing. He will not get that strategic victory. So are the Iranians daring him to take the huge risk and go get the uranium himself, and then risk putting American lives, at risk?
no, I think basically what Trump is going to do is just continue to put more and more economic pressure on Iran until Iran voluntarily gives up the uranium. I don't think, and most military strategists have said, it's going to be too difficult and too costly if we wanted to go in there and physically remove that uranium.
Okay.
As long as we keep it away from any type of bomb making, we can satisfy that, and we can just continue to pressure Iran economically. Their economy is about ready to collapse anyhow, and we'll see what happens there.
Right, economically. Does that mean that the heavy military buildup that America is executing in the Middle East is just for pressure, and it's not going to be used in a strong way?
It can be, I mean, again, it can be used. It can be used to destroy power plants. It can be used to destroy bridges. It can be used to attack military facilities. It can be used to, to reduce the RGC and the Position to total position that they are no longer capable. It can be used to destroy these swift boats that the IRGC Navy has in the Strait. It doesn't have to be used in a land invasion.
Yes.
Now, honestly, if you want to take over a country, you need to put boots on the ground. If you just want to pressure that country until it no longer exists, you can do it from the air.
Dr. Davis, there's something very confusing about the Hormuz situation. Now Mr. Trump is making that blockade. Now he's saying keep the Hormuz shut. Although he had, for the duration of the war, 55 days or so now, he's been saying open Hormuz, open Hormuz. Now he's saying close sesame, close sesame. And so now Hormuz is shut by Iran and by America, and they are both accused of, together now, of taking the global economy hostage. What do you think of that, and what do you think of the passiveness of the international community?
Well, and again, this is, as you said, this is somewhat confusing. The United States has a blockade on Hormuz until Hormuz is opened. Iran has closed Hormuz until the Americans are gone. So both sides are sitting there, and both sides are doing exactly the same thing.
Right.
The difference is that it's going to impact the Iranian economy much, much more than it will the U.S. economy or the European economy.
Right.
Although there are now movements by Europe independently is saying they may send a force to open up the streets.
Dr. Davis, China, which asked Iran to solve its disputes and go to Islamabad, and has also asked for the opening of Hormuz by Iran and by the United States, and have also warned the Iranians, that's the Chinese, they have warned the Iranians that they will look for other sources of oil if you know, the situation remains the same, and they have warned them against making any potential deals with America, oil deals with America. So does that mean that there is that a possibility still exists, having oil deals between Washington and Tehran? At least this is what Beijing thinks.
I don't know what Beijing was talking about. I mean, but China gets 40% of its energy from coming through the Strait of Hormuz. 90% of the exports from Iran go to China.
Yes.
Now, China can find other areas. They can get it from Russia. They can get it from other countries. They can get it Saudi Arabia. Right in the United States, right now, it actually, and I think the president said this today, the United States is now pumping more oil than the UAE and Saudi Arabia combined. So China can't, I don't think they want to get it from the United States, but they can. But the Chinese had two main sources of oil, Venezuela and Iran.
Yeah.
The United States has cut that source off completely.
Right. Dr. Davis,
China needs to get oil from somebody.
Yes. How is Mr. Trump's words about Americans have to get ready for higher oil prices for some while? How is it resonating with the Americans?
The Americans don't like it, but at the same token, and everybody has to remember this, the gas prices in the United States right now are still nowhere near how high they were under Biden during COVID.
Okay.
Add that to the fact that the economy in the United States is better. More people have jobs and more people are making more money, so it's less impactful. No. Do they like it? No. But Americans get used to it real quick.
Okay.
Even back in the 70s, when OPEC cut us off, and we saw the very long lines at the gas stations, the Americans adjusted. And this is what Trump is saying. Yeah, we just have to go back and we have to accept this. It's going to get better, but for a short term, we may have to tighten our belts a little.
Right. Also, it seems that Mr. Trump is comfortable with the fact that the stock market, the Dow Jones, the S&P, and the NASDAQ are near record highs, and he says that the oil prices, the Brent and WTI, haven't, you know, jumped as much as he thought they would. So obviously he has some comfort there. But my question about the stock market specifically here, Dr. Davis, and we know that you're an economic expert as well, there is some sense or suspicion, at least, that there was some games played in the market. Maybe, I read an editorial about Mr. Trump sitting with the biggest CEOs of the biggest oil companies, and there seems to be some that editorial was saying that for the very first time, the big money players in the United States and in Wall Street weren't neutral. They were biased. They were listening to the U.S. president and moving alongside his, his plans, or at least they see that his plans serve their business, whatever. But there is this coalition now that is making, that is helping the stock market sustain itself even in the midst of war. And that coalition is not very, legitimate. What do you think?
This is the stock market. This is the market in general. Right now, the shock of the war, the shock of the Hormuz crisis, that has been pretty much been absorbed. All the changes have already been priced into the market, into the stocks, into the oil, into other things. And of course, the CEOs are going to meet with the administration. That's just what they do, in good times and bad. This is not a conspiracy. This is not anything out of the ordinary. If there was going to be a major, major shock, they're going to go to Trump and say, this is what we need you to do. This is what's going to happen. And Trump's going to say yes or no.
Yes.
Right now, the stock market has rebounded. The oil market is nowhere near the catastrophic levels that everybody thought it would be. So all the shock that could be has been priced into the system, and we're going to be able to ride this out for a long time.
All right. I want to ask you about Lebanon, Dr. Davis. At the White House now, there is the resumption of these Lebanese-Israeli talks. There's been an extension for 3 more weeks of the ceasefire, and Mr. Trump says that the Israeli Prime Minister and the Lebanese President should meet in 3 weeks' time in Washington. What do you think of that situation? How is it affected by the U.S.-Iran situation, and vice versa? Yeah.
Well, we have to look at this. First off, Iran would not go to have any negotiations unless Lebanon was included.
Right.
Well, but suddenly there's Israeli-Lebanese talks, and there's a ceasefire. So that took that argument away from Iran. Secondly, we have to understand that the Israeli-Lebanese ceasefire, it's wonderful, and it shows great movement forward. But Israel is not at war or threatened by Lebanon. It's Hezbollah. And Hezbollah has taken itself out and say they have no ceasefire. But in the meantime, Hezbollah's main source of ammunition and financial support is Iran. And Iran cannot right now support Hezbollah. So Lebanon, the Lebanese government wants Hezbollah gone. They've wanted them gone for years. Hezbollah is not Lebanese. They're being controlled by Iran. They're an offshoot, an old hangover of the PLO that were kicked out of Jordan. And this is something Lebanon would love to get rid of, disarm them and get rid of them.
So do you think
so right now,
yes.
Israel and Lebanon have got to figure out how to do that.
So do you think these talks can progress, and that, especially that Israel wants disarmament first, but Lebanon wants a peace deal first and a full withdrawal from Lebanese territories?
It's workable. That part is strictly that can be worked out. And I think it's one of the Israeli ministers said they're willing to work with Lebanon to disarm Hezbollah. And again, we have to look at the fact that as much as Lebanon wants Israel out of Lebanon, they want Hezbollah out of Lebanon. That area that Hezbollah is involved in, that spaces northern Israel, Lebanon does not control it.
But
the Lebanese government is not in charge of it.
Let's be realistic, Dr. Davis. It's very unlikely and most certainly will not happen that Lebanon would agree to get Israel's assistance in disarming Hezbollah. Lebanon might get UNIFIL's assistance, maybe other assistance, but not Israeli assistance.
No, but this is the start. Israel says, we'll help you. Lebanon goes, we need help, but we don't want Israeli help. So then Israel can turn to somebody else. Israel can turn and kind of sneak around to Syria. Syria wants Hezbollah gone too. And Syria come in and help the Lebanese. France wants to get back to their old colony and help. Well, the French sent forces to assist the Lebanese government.
Right.
All this does, it squeezes Hezbollah.
Of course, there is a very weakened Hezbollah in Syria, maybe very, very, very weakened in Syria after, of course, the fall of Bashar al-Assad. One final question, Dr. Davis. We are in tough times. We are in times of uncertainty, I guess. There is a lot of obscurity and ambiguity. But let me ask you this. Now, the nightmare for Iran is to have the Libya deal. Remember, you know, give up its uranium and then get struck and have the regime fall, the country divided, civil war, and so on. Iran is fearful of the Libya scenario, and Mr. Trump is fearful of the Obama scenario, the deal that, you know, he cannot make a deal that in any way resembles the Obama deal. So between the two, how can we bridge the gap?
Well, I think right now Iran is much closer to their nightmare than the United States is. I mean, the Obama deal has been more or less outside of politics. Most of the intellectuals and most people that dealt with it know that that deal was bad from the very beginning, and it was something that just was not workable. Except even if the United States, when the United States pulled out, that deal stayed in place. There were still other countries that were signatories to it, and it still failed. So that's something we have to deal with. So at the end of the day, the deal is going to be Iran gives up its uranium and its nuclear ambitions, and that's going to be what the world really wants. But I think right now, before we get to that, I think Iran is in a much more weakened state than the world realizes, and I think they're on the brink of total collapse.
So
we'll see what happens.
They are likely to go back to the negotiating table, even if the blockade is not lifted. Is that correct?
Realistically, logically, they should.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as you have said, with the IRGC in charge, they're going to be a little less likely to negotiate. They're going to want to fight. They're going to want to fight to the end. And this is bad for the Iranian people. But at this point, that's where we are.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what happens, and let's all pray for peace. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Dr. Paul Davis, the military and strategic expert and the professor at the Institute of World Politics, talking to us from Washington, D.C. Thank you as always. And thank you for watching us. In 2 minutes, we'll be back with Nile News, so please don't go away.